Hi, our guest today, our Highway Surveyor Scott Crisafulli, who's also the chairman of the town's Transportation Advisory Committee, and Finance Committee member Mike Soares, who's also a member of the Transportation Advisory Committee. Hey guys, welcome.
Welcome.
Thank you.
How you doing?
Thanks for coming. Obviously, one of the reasons we asked you here is we've had bus service running for a grand total of about 8 days the day we're taping this. How's it going?
So far, so good. No big issues. Keeping track of the riders, and it seems to be going well. I rode the bus last Friday. I did get caught in a transfer, which is interesting, but it seemed like it went well. Everything was on time and going good.
Where were you transferring to?
When you are on the last bus, I guess it's 2 o'clock, you end up in Holliston.
Oh, then you need to
If you're
transfer to come back.
getting off, you have to transfer buses. So it was interesting being stuck in the middle of that, but it worked out fine.
How many riders have you had so far?
Been averaging 20 a day.
Wow.
That's not bad for
That's
first week.
really
Not bad
quite
for the
good.
first week, right?
Now, you guys had a advisory committee meeting since the buses started running?
Yeah, we had one last week.
And what have you guys been discussing?
Well, the first meeting was mostly about the launch and how that was going. At that time, we only had 2 days of data, so it was about the same, about 20 a day. And we were talking about what our next meeting will be like. We were discussing potentially changing the route a little bit. We've had at least one stop request that isn't
library.
The library, which isn't currently on the route.
It's not a surprise. Shouldn't be.
Right, it's not a surprise that people want to see
Right.
that, yeah. So it might be difficult to, everything we put in there essentially takes from something else. So we're gonna have to try to optimize the route, but we also don't want to change everything. We don't want to change things too quickly. We want people to learn how to ride the bus first, and then maybe in a few months we'll talk about changing the route.
Okay. Now, Al and I both grew up in areas where there was bus transportation. And I have jokingly made fun of the fact that I find it interesting. You have to educate people how to, the door opens, climb the stairs, pay the fare. But I guess there are people who've never ridden a bus live in Beaufort. To me, it's, hey.
It was new to me.
So,
I still haven't
What do I
ridden a
do with the
bus.
money?
Other than a school bus, I've never.
yeah.
Well, back in the day when you rode buses, they had a change thing, and you had to put the change in it, and you hear it clank, clank, clank. And now they do it a little more modern.
Well, now they have the Charlie card.
Yeah.
Things
Which-
like that didn't exist. A computer would have filled the whole bus.
That's
back then.
true. That's true.
No, but I understand it's going pretty well. I was surprised the first person who got out of town hall on the very first day happened to be a woman who works at Waters and was taking the bus from town hall to 109 and Birch Street and was going to walk the rest of the way to Waters because she doesn't have a car and doesn't drive. So I think her alone puts the comments made during the Finance Committee discussions. Mike, if you remember, people are going to walk 10 minutes to a bus? No, they won't.
Right, if they have no other choice, then
Well,
they
she
will
does.
walk.
She walks from West Spruce Street to Town Hall.
Well, what's your choice? Walk 10 minutes to the bus or walk all the way to where you have to go?
Right.
Yeah.
I
that-
mean, really.
Yeah, but I think she's living proof of the argument that was made on town meeting floor, which is if you don't have a car, you'll take the bus.
Now, are you seeing a gradual, slow increase over the last 8 days, or has it been?
It's just average 20. One day was 23, one day was 17. It's just
Oh,
been
okay,
back
so
and
it's-
forth.
I think it's candidly way too early to ask you guys.
Way
And
too early.
Yeah,
Plus
yeah,
with the
one
holiday
week.
week,
Even the
Right.
Labor Day, that date is very choppy. We're gonna have to.
Selectman Chairman Buckley actually said on the first day that he didn't think he could get accurate numbers for at least 3 to 6 months to see if it's moving anywhere.
Right, and the MWRTA really doesn't want to release numbers after, before the end of the month. They want to see where they're at.
Yeah, that'd be my guess. 30 days would be the,
Yeah.
or 30-day window, and then you have a better feel
But,
for it.
being on the board, obviously, we want to know every day for some reason. We need to know that.
Right. Well, no, you were involved in actually setting up the route, Scott, correct? I mean,
Somewhat, yes.
I'm told you went out with the police chief and the town administrator and Carl Demagello from MWRTA
Yeah.
and actually decided not to stop on main streets, and you wanted them to stop where sidewalks were plowed and
Well,
things
there was a
like that.
balance between the MWRTA and the police chief, and where they want to stop, where they don't want to stop, where they don't want to drive in parking lots, and where the chief doesn't think we should stop on the road. So, you know, in the end, it all worked out. From my end, being the highway surveyor, I'm mostly concerned with the maintenance.
Right.
If we're not plowing where there's a bus stop, we're gonna have issues. So we try to point them where we already maintain the sidewalks during the winter, and we know that, you know, no one's gonna have any issues falling down or walking through snow bankings or whatever it is.
Right.
Okay. And Mike, I remember during the finance committee hearings, you took an unusual position that you were rooting for the bus, but wanted more info.
Yeah,
So I'm kind of glad you got on the committee, because I think that lets you get the info you wanted as a committee member.
And actually, it's one of the reasons why they asked me to be on this committee, because they said I kept an open mind during the debate, because I wasn't, what I said was, I want the bus to be successful, but I was concerned because it felt like it was being rushed. And I wasn't confident that we were prepared to start a bus service. So, you know, so I was really on the fence about starting the bus this summer
Right.
versus next summer. It was never being against the bus service. I think that, you know, this town is certainly big enough where we should have a bus, and I think we have a right-sized bus. You know, it's not a huge, you know.
I think there's 16 seats
Yeah,
there.
it's not like you see with the WRTA with those big 32 passenger buses. It's a, you know, a smaller 16 passenger
Right.
bus. So, I mean, I think it fits Milford, and I think it'll do well here. It was just a concern that I had about being prepared for the bus as quickly as they wanted to launch it.
So are you acting as the FinCom's liaison back to the full membership?
Correct.
So when people say, how's it going? You can say
Exactly.
20 a week, 30 a week,
Yep. And
not enough.
you know the committee has a number in mind is to be, you know, to judge the bus, the ridership, whether or not it's successful. So I'm sure they'll be asking me on a regular basis, you know, what the number is currently. So
I think they'll ask not just is it 20 a day, but is it 20 new people a day, or is it the same 20 people every day?
Well, that we don't know.
Well, and really, it really doesn't matter.
it really doesn't.
It doesn't matter.
It's about
No.
Actually, that's a good thing. If you have 20 or 40 people ride it, the same people ride it every day, that's a good thing, because now there's a dependency on that bus
I think
service.
what people are going to care about, if the number's 20 a week now, you know, if a year from now it's still 20 a week, I think there'll be worries.
Well, 20 a day.
20 a day.
I'm sorry,
so
20 a
100
day.
Yeah.
Yeah,
20
about
a
100
week.
a week.
Everybody, yeah.
But I mean, at 20 a day, if it's still 20 a day a year from now, I think people will question its usefulness.
Which I'm sure, yes, they will, absolutely. If we're still at that number, I don't think we'll be that low come
don't
a
think
few
so.
months from now.
Right.
No.
I think you're going to be surprised at how many people ride that, take
I
advantage
don't, I
of it.
don't think a lot of people are aware of it yet. Even talking to the bus driver, who drove it, he didn't drive the whole week, but he drove the first couple of days. He says people see the bus, and then they're looking at it like, there's a bus? Like, we have a bus, you know? Whether they were Milford residents or not, we don't know. They're, you know. from
Well,
the
I
stores.
happen to be sitting in my dentist office, which is in that new building near the commuter lot.
Mhm.
And it's up on the second floor. And when my son was getting his wisdom teeth out, I'm looking out the window, and all of a sudden I see the bus go by. I go, oh, where's that from? I go, oh, wait a minute, it's there now. You know, it's sort of like, even though I knew it was there, you have to get used to the fact it's going down the street.
Right.
I have to tell you, I did a double take the other day. I was driving down South Main Street. All of a sudden at Fruit Street, there's a bus stop sign. And I was like, when did that get there? So I think you're right. People are getting used to it.
And that was one of the subjects of our last meeting was public outreach, what we can do. We were talking about posting schedules at, you know, popular places like the police station, the library, post office, all those locations where, to let people know that the bus is running.
JL, do you know a way to reach people?
I can get you to 13,000 doorsteps.
Local newspapers, TV
13th.
shows.
But,
Yeah, TV
No.
show, it's a good idea. TV show, that's a great idea.
no, so the fact is the bus does run, what, 13 hours a day or 13 times a day? I can't remember.
It's not 13, it's 13
14
hours.
trips a day,
Yeah,
14 trips a day from, I think it's what, 7 in the morning to,
yeah. The
8:30 at night.
the route is just slightly under an hour, so.
yeah. It's not a bad route either. I mean, basically, you can go from anywhere
To anywhere,
to anywhere.
with a short walk, not a long walk.
It
but
covers about 3/4 of Milford,
Yeah.
the whole loop.
That's great. That's great.
It seems to be a decent route. I think the fare is reasonable enough, given what people pay on the T in Boston. You know, this is a lot cheaper.
Right.
Um,
And then, of course, with the Charlie card, you could always get a discount if you become a regular rider, so.
Right, that's the important thing that I understand Carl DeMagella keeps telling people, which is if your ride is 70 cents, don't put $1 in the fare box because you won't
No
get change.
change,
Put
exactly.
the $1 on the Charlie card and the 30 cents still stays with you.
Yeah, yeah,
But-
exact change or Charlie card is the way to do it.
Yeah,
Charlie card is actually the best way, and that's a good measure of how committed people are to the bus. Is the Charlie cards. The more Charlie cards are out there, the more, that's a good
Right,
measure.
I guess if you're gonna use it, you wanna have a Charlie card, so.
Right.
Bingo,
Now-
yep.
Now, does the MWRTA plan to do more outreach sessions in the town coming up? They did some before it started.
Yeah, we've talked
With
about
the
that a little
seniors
bit
and
with
things like that.
Carl, and he's got some ideas they wanna do, and they're gonna continue doing it. They're actually gonna go up to high school, I think, next, talk to the kids up there.
Well, that was one. The first day, there were several high school kids took the bus to their jobs at Target.
I think he even mentioned he might be doing Charlie cards up there, giving them out.
That's not bad. Well, I think the younger folk who are used to debit cards and everything
Mm-hmm.
do it. I still think, I remember my parents would not touch a debit card because they didn't get it. But I think it might be a little harder for people, the idea of, charging on the card and that.
No, I think it makes it convenient because now the kids don't have to take a lot of money, or people, you got a card, you can plop it in there. And people are much more used to using a card today than they are. And the kids are
Yeah,
much
I just
more,
remember
Yeah,
what Carl
which is-
said, just tap it once, because if you hold it there, all the money gets
Yeah.
sucked out.
Just easy and using cash. I found it funny also, I was on the bus and there was 3 younger girls on there. And as they were getting off, the bus driver said bye by name, so he knew them all by name. So obviously they already rode the bus before, so it was interesting.
Well, I think it will develop
Obviously
over time.
repeat
I mean,
riders.
I've been writing in my column for the paper for some time, and I think the ridership was out there waiting for the bus, as opposed to the opposite, let's give a bus and see who shows up. I think now they just need to understand it's there and
Right.
where it is at a given time. And I think one of the neat things is the MWRTA website has that Find the Bus application, where you can actually,
find a bus.
You
You
can
can-
track the bus.
you can
yeah.
see the Milford bus going on it. Well, you can see all their buses on that page going on their routes and see where it is at a given time.
Which is really useful because, in reality, buses do run late, or sometimes they're early. So it's good to be able to see,
Especially in snowy weather, rainy weather,
sure.
when traffic runs
High
late. It's nice to, if you're saying that there's a 7:10 at Town Hall, 7:10 a.m., and it's 7:10 and the bus isn't there,
Yeah.
and you pull out your smartphone and, okay, it's a block away.
Well, that was one of the interesting questions when the representative was here. We asked him, when do you not run the buses? And, for snowstorms. And his response was, we've never had one of those. The buses have always run.
Only when
They-
the
they
governor
did
says
tell me
stay off
that,
the
right.
roads.
Right.
So,
They did tell me that. They
yeah.
never stop.
They never stop, and I'm thinking to myself, wow, that's,
I was even surprised that they have holiday schedules. I thought they were just going to be off for Labor Day, but they had a.
no,
It's 8 to 4, 8 to 5, 8 to 5:30.
yeah, it gives people a chance to shop. But the thing is as it runs more and more and people get used to seeing it, they're gonna, oh yeah, I'll take the bus.
Well, now, Ed Carr, the MWRTA director, keeps saying that Carl DeMagella of the MWRTA lives in Holliston, is thrilled about the bus because all these Holliston people want to come to Fortune Boulevard to come shopping. So I want to see those numbers develop
Yes,
over time.
that's interesting.
That
The only thing
people are
stinks
coming
is
the other way.
That's like the first stop, so now you have to ride that bus for an hour to get back around. That is the tough part about it, and I guess if you're used to riding, public transportation, you're used to that.
Yeah,
But what I did is I picked up the high school and I did the whole thing. So, half hour into the ride, I was going all the way to Hollis and did the transfer, came all the way back.
Right, I mean,
It's a long
what,
ride.
what I remember was
Seems
I
long.
took a public bus to high school and back, to a regional high school, and I just knew these were the times in the morning that I could take the bus and still get
Yeah.
to school on time, And these were the times, from the time we let out, they had a special bus at the school to like 7 or 8 at night. You know, this is when you go out and take the bus. So, you know, you could stay in school till 5 minutes before the bus came. It's not like you were standing there for an hour, but it takes some getting used to. I mean, if I took the bus from the hospital over to Target, I'd have to know that, you know, these are the times it stops at Target.
Right,
And I
that
have
would
to
be a
learn
long
to
ride.
shop until 5
Yeah,
minutes
you have
before
about an
then.
hour to shop.
Yeah.
If you, or 2 hours.
Or 2, yeah,
whatever
exactly.
you-
You can time it out, yeah.
Right, right.
And I gotta say, the bus was within 3 minutes when I rode it. So.
Wow, I mean,
And that was 2 in the afternoon.
that's not bad, that's pretty close.
But
That
it
really
is, it is not snarled up Main Street traffic or East Main Street traffic yet.
Well, they're only going down 109 and they're going the opposite direction. So they avoided the traffic as much as possible. They cross Main Street, but they don't ride on Main Street, except for that last pass.
Well, that's, well, you would expect that they're gonna organize their route to,
Right, and that's what they do.
Yeah.
So
It's-
that's
it's
why
an
when we
interesting
started
route
asking them to
because-
do things, they well, we got to deal with the traffic and the time. You want
Yeah.
1 hour, we're gonna have to.
It's
do
an
it. So-
interesting route when you look at it, because it was really planned not to go down main roads, but to stop at different locations,
Right.
which is not really the way they design bus routes usually.
No, usually you would expect it going up and down 16.
Right.
But really we don't. We barely ride on 16. It's mostly all the other roads. You know, we cross Main Street like 4 or 5 times because we're trying to get, you
From
know,
one-
avoid
right.
traffic.
That's why people have to walk a little, some distances, because you're not on the traffic. But the object there is to minimize the amount of traffic holdup.
But it also
But we're
does,
also hitting the major stops.
Right, absolutely,
too, so.
absolutely.
I think, you know, it also provides a major route for people going to medical appointments.
Right.
I mean, if you're going to the hospital or the cancer center, Edward M. Kennedy, or the CVS drugstore down on 140, you've got a way of getting there now.
Yeah.
Gives you a way of getting to the shopping plazas, supermarkets.
Now, in that time, how many handicap stops have been made, or do you keep track of it?
I don't know if we have that data.
Okay.
No, we don't.
Because that's the one thing that will have an impact on your trip time, is because it takes, I've heard 10 or 15 minutes to
Yeah,
do one of those.
People might already be using the senior bus for that.
That
so-
may, yeah. that
You know,
may-
I thought of that when I was on the bus because they have the ramp on the back, and I was wondering how long that whole thing takes to undo it, and then
It
you know,
could
put
take,
someone in a wheelchair.
He
hook
said
them
it takes
in, and
15 minutes, is what he
does it
said.
really
Yeah.
take that long?
well, if you do it right, I mean, they have to go to the location, because that's also if they get called to somebody's house,
Right.
they go off the route. But
And I don't think we've had any of those yet.
no, but to do it right, you have to lower them, you have to strap them on the
Right,
on
yeah,
the
it's-
lift.
It's a whole
The
process.
lift comes up, you move them off the lift, then you strap them in a seat. Then when they get off, you do the reverse. But they're doing that on all the senior buses now.
Mhm.
So
Well, that may not be an impact. It may not have a
yeah,
major impact.
it might not. But Mike, what are some of the things the committee is looking at to promote it? You said you want to look at how to promote the bus service.
Well, it was mostly just being able to go out to those popular stops and posting the schedule, just to let people know. Once they see the schedule, they'll know the bus is actually running. So there was a lot of talk about putting a schedule at the library, like we said. The housing association was important. A few of the apartment complexes in town. The problem is trying to get it like in the newspapers. The committee itself doesn't have a budget, so we're just a volunteer group and we don't actually have a budget. So to be able to do anything major, we'd have to do some type of fundraising. So
Unless you get the
MWRTA.
MWRTA to do it, which,
Or the selectmen to say, hey,
or the selectmen is another.
I mean, it'd be
possibility.
worthwhile, it's worthwhile to do.
don't forget, if all that money ever gets released from the state, the town is actually 25 grand ahead of the game. You've got the 50,000 the town paid.
Correct.
Okay, $75,000 CHNA grant, that's 125. The state was going to give 150 more to MWRTA for this run. That's 275 out of 250.
I thought it was 125. but
Or
I think-
125, okay. But there, you're at the amount, and then there was a 75,000 earmark coming to the town of Milford for that, which if you add it all up, the town is 25 grand ahead.
Okay.
One of the selectmen told me. So if that money ever gets released, you have 25 grand to do marketing. I don't think
This is
people,
news to me, so.
well, I don't think people
it
realize
makes
that
me
when
know.
you added up all the money promised,
Yeah,
if everybody got what they were promised, it'd be an extra 25 grand
that'd be interesting.
sitting there.
I was very pleased that we were down to that number to begin with, before town meeting.
When it was,
The number was gonna be like 125 for
and it
the,
dropped to 50,
and it like on the spot, within the hour before.
miraculously.
Yeah, within the hour before town meeting, suddenly the number's 50,000.
I was sitting at the selectmen's meeting half an hour before, and lo and behold, someone pulled a letter
Yeah,
out of thin air that said, we're getting this money, ta-da-da-da, and they voted to modify the request to 50. They went upstairs, and it dropped from 125 to 50,
yeah.
and a lot of opposition just melted away.
It really did.
I
mean,
always call
because-
that the magic
That was
letter.
interesting.
Because at that point, it really was such a, you're paying 1/5 of the benefit that you're getting. It's definitely worth at least trying it out for a year.
When I see the selectmen, I always refer to that tongue-in-cheek as the magic letter.
The magic letter, yeah.
Well, yeah, it just showed up on the right day with the right amount. No offense, I've been doing this far too long to just believe
In magic.
that there wasn't a lot of work behind that letter showing up on that day.
I mean, I've seen a lot of magic happen at the last minute too. So, I like to think that it's people like really cramming at the last second to get things done.
It is.
Um,
It is. It was basically, I think the money promised to the MWRTA was there, and it was a question of, Ed Carr, you need to write a letter to us today that we could read before the town meeting,
right.
Because putting it in the mail and giving it to us tomorrow isn't going to help.
Doesn't work.
I think it was something like that as opposed to, here's a gun, write the letter.
Right.
Now for something entirely different, roads.
That's a different guy.
You spent a lot of money on Water Street this summer.
Yeah, I think the grand total is gonna be around 650, 700,000.
But it'll be finished, counting the work you did with the Community Development Block Grant up near Prospect Street 140.
Right, the sidewalks up
You're going to
there,
be done all the way down, correct?
the whole length. There'll be a new sidewalk on the right side going up from Lee Street to 140 also, where there is not one now.
Okay. So you have basically a completely redone road and at the top, new sidewalk curbing.
Yeah. So we did drainage work, we did full depth reclamation, we built a couple catch basins. We're gonna do all kinds of sidewalk work. We haven't started yet. Last year we did the handicap ramps. So it's gonna go on for a while. We'll be done by hopefully October,
Oh, that's great.
mid-October.
But that's a major road in town that's done for another 20
It
years.
was definitely due. A lot of complaints. It just was a matter of trying to get the money to do it.
What other roads did you do this summer?
We did Harris Ave, Coolidge Road, Mount Pleasant Street, which was way beyond due. We just did Camp Street and Haven Street, and we're in the middle of doing Chapin Street, and we're gonna do South Bow, if we can squeeze it all in before the snow. That's the plan,
That's very aggressive.
yes.
And Water Street, basically, the cost of that ate up doing a lot of little roads.
Yeah, I mean, and it took me 2 years. Last year, we probably spent 150 on it, and this year another 550, I think.
Okay, and then the water company repaved Lower Purchase Street after
Yeah,
the break.
did that after the break. Big projects coming up with Route 109. It's got to be done.
That's a
And
state road, though.
That's huge money. Yeah, but we have to do it. The state won't do it.
Really?
No, we maintain it. So
So you're talking from the East Main Street split all the way out to the town line?
all the way to the town line. Yep.
That's going to be another $600,000-$700,000 project.
Yes, it
Maybe
is.
more than that.
Yeah, it doesn't need the work that Water Street needed, but it's so big and
It's
so many
very long,
square
yeah.
yards. that
And
it's
you
not-
also have, you have to meet the state specifications on it.
Yeah, well, we do that on every road anyway.
What, it's just cold plating and then and
That would be
repaving?
just cold plain and paved, yeah. You
But
don't
that's
have to-
still, how many miles is that?
It's not so much miles, it's the square yards. Off the top of my head, I can't remember, but it's a lot.
Well, I mean, we know the distance, so
Yeah.
that's,
It's probably a mile, a little over a mile.
Wow.
But you're talking 4 lanes, it's
right.
4 miles, so.
And I saw the state out a week or two ago surveying up near the hospital, so hopefully the plans to redo Main Street from Hopedale Town Line back to
That's,
Water Street is
that's
coming
being
along?
rushed, actually. We just had a Mass DOT meeting last week on that, and there's a possibility it'll be 2018. It's scheduled for 2019. So we're kind of in a rush now to get the engineering done.
And so that's from Hopedale back to Water or just past the hospital?
From the Hopedale line, actually beyond the Hopedale line, past the big intersection there, is it Dutchess Street?
Dutcher Street.
So we're gonna go right through that intersection and all the way to Water Street.
Wow.
And then you're talking 2 lanes of traffic each way at 140 and 16, so it's
And-
getting
and-
widened.
Widen the intersection finally.
And then all the sidewalks, curbing, handicap ramps, the whole works.
And that's-
Wow.
Through.
Now, is that another state project that's gonna make it look like the rest of Main Street?
Yes.
So-
It's a tip project, so.
So you have to obey their rules as opposed
Has to
to,
be designed according to their little rules and regulations, and bike lanes and stuff like that all has to be put in. But it's also a $5 million project, so
and
saving us $5
what will the
million.
town share of that be?
Just the engineering, probably about 200,000 said and done.
Well,
Not a bad
Still not
deal.
bad.
No, it's not.
that's really very good.
So after that's done, what's the biggest problem you have for a roadway?
Well, that Main Street will be complete end to end. The other end of Main Street at 109, that intersection needs to be done. I think the state is gonna do that intersection. We
Okay.
originally
They're never gonna
had
do
that-
from 85 to 109 though. That was the part left out the last time.
If they're gonna do that intersection, we probably can get them to do the whole thing. I don't know where that is at this point, but we know that intersection needs to be done.
Okay.
So, and then you have Cedar Street, Route 85. That's a couple years away. It's coming. So that's been patched and repatched, and it's got some bad areas, and it's getting worse every year. So that's coming.
Doesn't stop, does
Besides
it?
that, though, I mean, Congress Street, Upper Congress Street, Highland Street's coming again.
The main
Um,
roads.
Yeah.
I
But,
mean, they,
you know,
they
I
they
always
get-
see the light, but then it starts to fade again.
Yeah, you can see the end of
Weirdest
the, you can see the
thing.
tunnel, but, you know,
We're getting there, you know, we'll see what happens. You know,
Well, supposedly free cash is coming a little higher than anticipated this year,
I'd love to grab some of that.
so there
but
might be some
I
road
know
money.
nothing about that.
but
I-
you can ask.
I understand that's the most closely held secret in Milford Town government right
I
now,
don't know anything
where
about
that
it.
number is.
Don't know.
I
But-
just hear it's higher than planned.
There's never enough money for what we do, for sure.
Yeah, 'cause cost of fixing a road does not drop.
No, it's gone up and up and up and up. The average road is 100,000. For your average side road, it's 100 grand a road. And, you know,
So the main
that's-
roads are several times more than
Yeah.
that.
Wow.
Are you on the highway subcommittee, Mike?
I think I just recently got appointed to that subcommittee, yes.
See, you get an early briefing.
Yeah, so
So,
It's all in
all
the
that
memo.
extra free cash I'm just seeing
It's all in the memo. I like
Scott
that.
taking
That's good.
out, so we'll see.
Yeah.
okay. Well, believe it or not, guys, we're almost through the half hour, so I want to thank
was
you for
quick.
coming in,
Yeah, thank
welcome.
you.
and we
Thank you.
appreciate your time, and
And the information.
maybe we'll get you guys back on in another 6 or 7 months, talk about the bus again, see how much
Sure,
better you're
yeah,
doing.
absolutely.
Definitely.
And Scott, you get a break till next year on the roads.
All right.
All right, thanks, guys.